Hey, I'm Lee Hatchett with Thomas Service Company, and we're here to do an install today. So let's go.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar.
So, 20-year-old gas straight air conditioning unit here. As you can see here, we've removed the old unit, leveling the pad up. We use good topsoil that won't wash out under the pad. All the disconnect, electrical connections here, all this will be replaced here. This is actually just the beginning stages. There was a concrete pad here. A lot of companies would just set their pad on top of that concrete pad, but that concrete pad's been here since the house was built, so it was unlevel, and there's no leveling a concrete pad after that long, you know. So we pull them up. This one wasn't terribly bad. It did take all three of us to get it, but we have had them where we had to take a sledgehammer and spend an hour or so busting them up and hauling them out of here, you know, in 8 or 10 pieces. So it's a 2.5 ton unit, and we're going back with a 2.5 ton unit because it was sized correctly according to the square footage of the home. We didn't make no change in capacity or tonnage. So right now the main objective is to get this pad level and to make sure there's a solid, you know, foundation under the pad so it don't sink on them later. We want to make sure it's the same amount of inches from the wall on both sides, that it's sitting square, level. Lance, when a customer walks up to this thing later on, once this is all completed, he won't pull the panel off the unit and look at how beautiful the electrical's been wired in, and he won't do none of that. When he walks up to this unit, what he sees physically with his eyeball is what counts for us as far as delivering the level of customer service that we're trying to achieve. It's got to look beautiful, man, and we're not just trying to put heating and cooling in this home. We're making a transformation here, you know, from 30 years ago. We're bringing it up to date. This is where old school and new technology meet. Bring all this up to code, up to date. When we leave here, the customer will be bragging to his neighbors about it, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's about making the customer happy. So we don't take shortcuts. We focus on cosmetics as well as performance and efficiency and everything, but we're not in a hurry. We'll be here until the job's done and it's done right. Doesn't matter if it takes 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever. The objective is to make sure they got heating and cooling before we leave here, and the job looks to Thomas standards, you know. So you're gonna get us our first OSHA violation, getting me hit by a condenser.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, we did have to pull permits from the city, gas permits, mechanical permits, just to make sure this customer, everything gets to code. He ever wants to sell his home, or it'll be correct. If you'll notice, when Bradley just walked to the truck, he took that pallet with him. That's something that Craig has trained him. You know, don't walk to the truck empty-handed. If there's trash laying here, or if there's something that we're not using no more and you got to go to the truck to get something, take something with you. That's less you have to do at the end of the job. You're talking about how long does a job take. It's according to how efficient you work, you know, number one. And that's how you don't have to work 10 or 12 hours, is you keep it clean as you go. Long story short, don't make no trips to the truck empty-handed unless you want somebody to get mad at you. Yeah, is that right, Craig? Very important here to take good care of the customer's home. We have to put down drop cots. This is our walkway to where we're working, so we don't want to track up the customer's house or stain up their carpet or do nothing silly. This is the furnace here, and as you can see, she has done what she was supposed to do. She has lived a good life, and now it's time to move on to something more updated and safer for the family. This is gas heat, as you can see, so A lot of rust going on here. That's not something you want to see when you're talking about gas heat. So that's always an indication of trouble. So there's a lot of things we're doing here to bring this up to date and make sure that they get a good quality install. So this here is a what we call a return stand. Don't be mistaken for a return box, because that's not what this is. A return stand has to be built out of really thick metal so this furnace here can sit on top of it. We'll take this sleeve here and attach it to the side of this box like this here. This sleeve here will go into the wall. We'll put this new 20 by 25 return grill right here, so the customer has a place to change their filter. As of right now, they don't have a filter in place and there's nowhere to put one, so we're going to fix that problem. There's also not a pan in place, which is why we brought that. This is the thermostat I was telling you about. Any manufacturer, I mean, so I could hook a Honeywell thermostat, a Ecobee or a Google Nest, anything to this machine, but I don't do that when someone purchases a Trane unit. I give them a Trane thermostat because that equipment was tested at the manufacturer with this thermostat. It's also what they recommend to run their equipment. For an example, this furnace is a variable speed indoor blower motor. The gas valve is a 2-stage gas valve. So we're not just a simple on and off piece of equipment here. So we need a good thermostat to operate it so they'll get the maximum efficiency out of the equipment. Nothing will run it more efficient or better than the thermostat that was created to run it. Yeah, so customer isn't interested, we can put anything on, but we always prefer to do that. Rude has their thermostats, Carrier has thermostats, you know. It's always the best idea if you can afford it to purchase the manufacturer thermostat to match their equipment. So, cool. And it's not something I made up, it's manufacturer recommendation, so. Okay, buddy, what we looking like? What you got going on? We're already inside when we done in there. Okie dokie. You need me? All right. So, something else we always do that kind of sets us apart, we always cover up our equipment as we're working on it so we can lay our tools up here, or like, you know, rule of thumb around here is do not set nothing on top of a unit unless there's something there. Little things, it's about the little things, you know what I mean? Everybody in town knows how to install a unit, but you know, this is how you do it the right way. Like I said earlier, I'm always trying to think of ways to make it more appeasing to the eye for the customer. You know, besides the pictures I'm taking as we go, he can't see inside the machine. He can't see, you know, inside the duct and see that it's wet sealed and it's an airtight connection, you know. He can't see how good the wiring looks, how solder joints, how good he's not a technician. He don't understand none of that. So when he walks up to the machine, what does he see with his eye? You know, that's what really counts. Anybody can come out here and weld this machine in, set it out here, but are they putting a 4-foot level on it? Are they covering it up? Are they putting mulch around it? I mean, it costs $3 a bag. I mean, I'm not trying to hide the fact that it only costs $6 to do it, but it's $6 that looks amazing and nobody else is doing it. You know, every time I've did it, I've asked the customers, you know, what they thought about it, and they were just amazed. They just loved it. They were like, man, this is a transformation. And a lot of times, I won't say nothing to them about it, I just do it. Because at the end of the day, it really don't matter who does it. It just matters that it gets done. You know what I mean? No big deal. No big deal at all. So, look at this. Look right here. This is pretty nasty stuff. So it's deteriorated. I want to show you something, Lance. I'm gonna get some stuff set out. This is what most coils, 10 years, 12 years old. You'll see it is. Allergies are really bad right now, but check this out. If you can get your camera, can you see where my finger is here? See the deterioration in the metal? Oh yeah. See this soft copper here? See this soft pot metal? Yep. So this is just a bad design, but hey man, this is all we knew back then. Got soft copper going through pot metal. This starts rusting because this condensates all the time when it's in air conditioning. So you got soft metal, soft copper metal running through rusted pot metal. Like I told you earlier, anytime you hold your hand on a machine, you're gonna feel a vibration, and that's what happens when these start leaking. How our industry changed this about 10 years ago is they start dipping these coils in aluminum. As you can see on our new coil, I'm pretty sure it even says it on the side of the box there, aluminum. So they take these and dip them in aluminum. Now all this is coated in aluminum and it doesn't rust. So just a little something that our industry's done for the customer to help them out. That furnace has been there for, you know, so many years, and over 20 years, and it's just, you know, collects dust and dirt. Every house does, you know, and it's impossible to clean it without moving the furnace. So while we got the furnace out, we go ahead and shop vac and clean it and try to get it as nice and clean. You know, just like we were talking about keeping a clean workspace outside earlier, same principle here. So now he's setting his sub boards. We'll do some tweaking on the wall here before we put the furnace in. So we put our return grill right there. We have a sleeve that goes between the return grill and the return stand. You know, this was designed 20 something years ago, so we're having to design it to today's standards. A lot of measuring and cutting and, you know, making things fit back up correctly. Can't tear the house down and rebuild it at this point, but we can, you know, retrofit the equipment to the home. Used to look like, and that's what she's going to look like now. Big difference. Yeah, 2004. So 19 years old. I want to show you something here. This is a prime example. But you see this here? See the end of my finger? Right? So here's the significance about that. I'm going to teach you something. Watch this. See that? That's a hole. See? So come back over here and let me show you why that's bad. So, gas furnace. We're bringing gas in here, natural gas from the city, right? This gas valve opens, there's an igniter in here, and it lights these burners. 1, 2, 3, 4 burners. Then burners start lighting, shooting fire into these tubes here, right? Okay. Once those tubes get cherry red and hot up here, this blower motor, if you'll come back over here, that blower motor blows air across this heat exchanger, right? The air comes up and that's how you get heat in your home. Well, the burners burn in from the bottom of this, and this is your exhaust, right? So if you have a hole right here, that means your exhaust that's supposed to be going outside is mixing with your supply air, and you're getting carbon monoxide poisoning. That's why it's very important, if you ever have gas heat, you have to have a carbon monoxide alarms in your home, no matter what. If you'll look right here, check this out. No pressure. You can see I'm not putting no pressure on this at all. I just laid my screwdriver on it. That's really, really bad. Look. Them I kind of am putting pressure, a little bit of pressure, but still, you shouldn't be able to barely tap like, I mean, look. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. If you just barely tap this, and that, I mean, that's compromised. That's not safe, right? Remember this, right? It's not safe for a family to be sleeping in this home when this heat exchanger looks this way. If they don't have a carbon monoxide alarm, they could never wake up, never know that this is in this condition. So right now is actually kind of the slowest process because he's taking measurements. You're not going to see him start dragging this equipment in there until he knows, you know, how it's going to fit, and he may have to cut some of that box. He might have to cut some of the duct above it. He would want to do that before he takes all this in there. And basically, when he does take this in there, it's ready to set into place. You're not sitting it there realizing what you have to do, move it, make adjustments, put it back in place, move it, put it back in place. It's best just to take multiple measurements, get the space prepped, and then we'll work together getting this stuff in there and getting it connected with an airtight seal. So just like Craig's prepping inside for the furnace, Bradley here just replaced the electrical disconnect, replaced the whips. He's going to replace the drain line here in a little while. These copper tubings have been sized correctly, so we'll weld them back into the machine here. So a lot of times back, you know, if a unit is over 12, 15 years old, a lot of times they didn't use the proper size discharge line. This right here will be a 1/4 inch or a 5/16 or something, you know. Long story short, it will not be a 3/8, which is the proper size. This is a 2.5 ton unit. The only unit on earth that will accept a 1/4 inch discharge line is like a 1.5 ton unit, you know, and a real short line set. But this is a 2.5 ton, so that doesn't apply. So this was sized correctly, fortunately for the customer, so we didn't have to run new discharge lines. But we do RX flush, which is the proper procedure for installation on this. We'll flush and purge these refrigerant lines to make sure there's no contamination or moisture or acid or anything that could harm our equipment, because like I said earlier, we have to stand behind this stuff for 10 years. We don't want no junk in the refrigerant circuit. So we'll flush and purge it real good, and then at the end we'll pull a really good vacuum down to 500 microns. We'll generally break that vacuum and do what we like to call a triple evacuation. Go ahead and just do it a couple more times, get it to 500 or below. Just confirm there's no moisture or contaminants in the refrigerant circuit. But at the end of the day, it's all about the customer, and that's what's up, you know what I mean? When you go home to eat your dinner or whatever you do in the afternoon, you got the customer to thank for that. They cut a hole in the side of the furnace, right? This is the furnace. I'm not going to take a brand new train furnace and cut no hole in the side of it. What I'm gonna do is set it on this box and cut the hole in the side of the box, and that way the air can mix inside this box like it's supposed to. It's also could be considered an air mixing box. It's a lot better for the machine. Get a whole lot more volume of air to the blower assembly area. You know, at the end of the day, all this has to be serviceable too. You got to remember that there's going to be someone out here at the bare minimum at least one time a year. Yeah, checking the unit out, making sure it's still doing like it's supposed to, and it's got to look good and it's got to be serviceable. Okay, so we run into a little minor issue here. Flue venting was too long. We couldn't get our furnace in the space, so we went up in the attic and detached it. We brought new vent piping with us just in case this happened. So no big deal, we back on track. They should be ready to put the furnace in now. So as you can see, we got the flue vent out of the way. We was able to slide the furnace in here onto the new turn stand. It's all silicone, so it's airtight connections. Next step is to get our evaporator coil in on top of this furnace, tie up our copper tubing, our new flue vent, our drain, and then we'll be ready to get her started up.